Okay, welcome to the second in the Mercy and Trust CPD Behaviour series, session 2, entitled Strategies to Motivate and Engage for Better Behaviour. My name is Mark Goodwin, Director of Behaviour and Wellbeing, and this is a series of behaviour training. There'll be 6 episodes altogether that take behaviour from the setup, from the work you do in your classrooms, to set up the class how you want it and to set up the class for the best behaviour that you expect from young people. And the 6 sessions will take us all the way through to the most challenging behaviour and the most difficult behaviour. From colleagues, a lot of the feedback we've had has been very positive, and people, which I'm very grateful for. But people also see it as an opportunity to dip in as they see fit and where their interest in behaviour lies. So if you are following the whole series through, it's lovely to have you with me. If you're dropping in just for this session, then I hope that you get plenty of practical tips that you can take into your classroom, practical tips that you can use tomorrow, that you can use the next day, the coming week, to help to motivate and engage students. If you are seeing it through, then I look forward to working with you in the future. You'll notice that the structure of the session is broadly a little bit of reflection from session 1 and a little bit of recap, and then moving into session 2. There's a very clear structure to it, and hopefully watching this on a recording, you will be able to pick up and follow the threads of the session. Session 1 then, just quickly really, if you were with me then, I always start off with the importance of looking after yourself. As teachers, the challenge of a classroom, whether you're a younger teacher that's teaching 4 or even 5 lessons a day on successive days, those are days that are entirely draining and wearing, and it's important that you look after yourself. Part of my job is about well-being, so hopefully there is plenty in place to support you and your well-being, because teaching will take a lot from you. So a lot of what I talk about will be with that in mind, that you are looking after yourself, that you are able to present in front of young people the best version of yourself, and that takes work, but it is important work if you're going to get behaviour right. I mentioned the Education Endowment Fund's Improving Behaviour in Schools, a very important document, still very recent, only a couple of years old. The sessions broadly follow their recommendations, but I do suggest, if you haven't already looked at that, the document is full of practical case studies from a range of schools, the Education Endowment Foundation, and always with their work, it's heavily research based, and they present a very helpful summary, graphic, 2-page summary at the start of it, so that you can get the key understanding and the key points from that document. Session 1 looked at the students. If we have to learn about our learners, we have to know our students. And post-COVID, we've got some very different students in front of us. Young people remain young people, and year 9 remain year 9, year 7 remain, but they have been through a very difficult couple of years. And some young people, the impact of those couple of years was clearly significant and more profound than others. So knowing and understanding that is an important part of getting behaviour right. I talked about disconnected kids. I was honest enough to say that we are seeing young people that are more disconnected than ever. We're seeing the impact of poverty on our communities. Some people would say that boys always have always been at the heart of behaviour problems. I think that remains so. And understanding that and having approaches to that can make a big difference in your classroom. We know that special needs, need recognising and need addressing. if we're to get the best behaviour out of all of our students. And there's another key group, which is pupil premium. What we've seen over the last couple of years is the impact on those students who fit into pupil premium, and the impact, the gaps are as big, if not bigger than ever. And if we're getting behaviour right, so that we can hopefully close some of those gaps. We're doing all of this in order to motivate and engage. If we've got disconnected young people, then connecting young people to school, to the work, to the lessons, to us as teachers, to themselves and their ambitions is really key work if we're to get the best behaviour out of them. I speak a lot about scripts, about the language that we use. And one of the first ones was just about the young people in our schools, the young people in the Mercian schools, whichever school it is. We have to believe that they are special. They are special young people. They are young people that have got special talents, that have got enormous potential. They're part of a school that is part of a trust that has the highest ambitions for them. And we want to encourage them to their full potential. And that requires them to behave effectively for learning. A key matrix that I refer to is the support and challenge. All of my work, threaded through all of my work on behaviour, is that support and challenge matrix. If you didn't see the session one, it's a very simple matrix. We've got support up the one side and challenge along the other. And everything in behaviour requires some combination of that, the support that we can offer as teachers, but also the challenge that we can offer, the academic challenge, the rigour, the assessments, the exams. All of that is a challenge that we bring to the young people with the necessary support. So in session one, that's a very brief summary of what we did. I left you with 4 key strategies. All of these sessions are about practical classroom strategies. It was very pleasing to have classroom support and teaching assistance on the course during session one. And I'd like to think that all of these are things that they would recognise, things that they do as well. So believing in children, believing in their potential, being optimistic and hopeful about what young people can achieve. We're very clear about why we are here as a school and as a trust. We're here because we want the best for young people. We want them to get better. We're nurturing them towards the best version of themselves. And part of that is, an important part of that is academic success. That's why we're here. We're here to learn. And we're here to make the most of the lesson time that they are in this classroom. Be very clear about that. I talked about clearing the path. Double plan is the idea that you just review what it is that you're going to do with the class through the eyes of the least engaged student, perhaps the most difficult student in your class. If you just do that, you're anticipating any pushback, any resistance, any potential problems in the lesson. So double plan, yes, it asks for a little bit of time the evening before, a little bit of time before the lesson, to just look at what it is that you're going to ask the class to do, and look at it through the eyes of your least engaged student. What level of literacy are you asking for? What level of written work? What level of verbal contributions? What level of intellectual challenge? What skill level are you asking the class to do? And if you look at it through their eyes, you can anticipate any potential pushback and any potential problems and make those adaptations in advance, so that before the disruption starts, before there's resistance, before there's a challenge to the lesson, you can explain what it is that you've got ready for that student and have it there so that they can pick up with the lesson and they can get as much out of the lesson as any other student. Most schools do a lot on this now. They recognise the importance of the teacher being there at the start of the lesson to meet and greet and set up the lesson. I won't say any more than that. Most schools have got do now activities, starters. Most schools expect some sort of teacher engagement to set up the lesson at the start. And the importance of this cannot be underestimated. It's not always possible. Schools are busy places. Teachers transfer from classroom to classroom. You've got duties to do. But the more often that this is done, the more often that lessons start in a settled and meaningful way. I finished off in session one with what's in it for me. And this is where I'll pick up in a moment. Basically, that's having something very clear to explain to the young people what it is in that lesson that's in it for them. And now that, I mean, in very simple terms, the learning that's contained with it is enough. For many kids, many young people will happily accept that this is a history, a physics, a PE lesson, and in it there's going to be something new to learn, and that should be exciting, and that should be of interest to them. But we also know that for a lot of young people, that's not enough, and something that you've got to explain what connects them to the lesson makes it more likely for them to engage. So what is in that lesson for them? And I'll pick up with this in a moment as a way of joining the two sessions together. We're not doing this live, so this is a recording. So there's an opportunity now to just pause the session and just have a little think. If you were in session one, how well has the work that we did to the ideas that I presented to you, how well are they working at the moment? Is there anything that surprised you? Is there anything that's interested you? Is there anything that you followed up on? Just take a second to go through that. If you're hearing that for the first time, then again, in your notebook, something that's interested you, something that you'd like to find out more about, something that you're going to have a go at, an action point. Whenever you do any sort of training, those kind of reminders and prompts are really important. So we'll just pause for a second. Okay, welcome back. And session two, strategies to motivate and engage for better behaviour. We'll talk about yet. We'll talk about responsible students. Alongside responsibility comes potential and relationships. We're going to talk about encouragement. We're going to talk about consequences. Very particular language I've used there in order that we get students to receive the encouragement that we give, but also to take responsibility for when it goes, when it doesn't go well. And so encouragement and consequences. A little bit about emotional agility. I started off by saying about looking after yourself as teachers, and I'm going to finish this session with a recommendation and a reminder about some of the emotional agility that's required to get behaviour right. I'll finish up with setting up session three, because the first two sessions have certainly been about positive establishment, positive expectations, positive setting up of lessons, and the sessions that follow start to look at misbehaviour, unhelpful behaviour, behaviour we don't want to see. So, the power to connect. Connecting, I feel that we have students that are more disconnected than ever. I covered that in session one, and there's lots of reasons for that. Lots of reasons why young people feel less connected to schools, to learning, to their lessons. More than ever, young people are quick to say they don't like this, they don't see the point of this. Why are we learning this? Those sort of challenges and pushbacks. So my advice to you is to really work on those connections. And another word for connection is relationship. So the power to build connection is the power to build relationships. So for me, it's important that young people, as quickly as possible in the lesson, find out how this lesson connects to the last lesson. That's a very simple connection to make. Make reference to the last lesson, and in particular, obviously make reference to the learning in the last lesson and how this lesson builds on that learning. That's a very simple bridge. That's a simple statement about what was done last lesson and how that's going to be built upon or used in this lesson. But Find something that was done particularly well in that lesson. Build the confidence of the class around the learning that you've been doing. So not just the content or the skills from the last lesson, but also something that was done particularly well by the class. Everybody seemed to get this point, and that's something we can work on now and build the confidence around the learning. The confidence will feed into confident behaviour for learning. Something else to connect to is the challenge. Not everything is easy, not everything is straightforward or simple. So connect the lesson, take the opportunity to a challenge and say, this is going to be difficult. This is a tough lesson. We're doing 3 crop rotation. We're doing algebra. We're doing a new formula. We're doing a challenging chapter in the book. So be open, but say that this is not something to be avoided. I can help you to do this. There'll be plenty of support, but we're going to take on this challenge. Connect the lesson to their world. What is there in the content of the lesson? Connect it to their needs. What are their needs? You know what their needs are. You know how they learn effectively. You know what they find difficult. Show that you know the learners in the class and you can provide for the needs. Connect to the world, connect to school values. We do this because we want the best. This is difficult. This is an important lesson because. Connect to their future possibility. At the very bottom line is that this lesson feeds into an exam series, whether that's mocks in year 9 and 10, half-termly, termly assessments, whether that's for our year 11s and year 13s external exams that will feature increasingly as we move through the school year. There's lots and lots. I'm not suggesting that you make all of these connections at the start of every lesson, but just 1 or 2 of those addresses the pushback and resistance that some people have. This lesson is important because now I'm a history teacher by trade, and I'm a strong advocate of the importance of history. But every young person needs to hear from as many teachers as possible the importance of their subject so that they build up a picture of school as being important. This is important because whether it's physics, history, maths, English, PE, music, whatever the lesson is, if it's a breakout group, if it's an intervention group, if it's an extension group, if it's an extra qualification they're taking on, it's important because. This is important because. And if they hear regularly that there's a connection to learning and you're building up those connections, they're understanding how this all fits together. If you're building up connection around what they do well or what they're going to find hard, if there's connection to their world, if you're all of those, any one or combination of those connections can make a really powerful start to a lesson. It doesn't have to be at the start of the lesson. It can be a close of a lesson. This was important because. Let them see the connections. If we want to engage and motivate, let's be explicit about connecting the lessons to the young people and their world. A little bit of a quiz, just obviously a moment for you to test your knowledge of key psychologists, important psychologists. You may recognise this lady. If not, I'm sure you recognise her book. Her name was Carol Dweck. Her book was Mindset, and that concept and her work has featured heavily in schools. I first came across that book back in the mists of time, 2008. Interestingly, I'm on Gifted and Talented, the first time that I saw her work, but it quickly established itself as a go-to text really for teachers because it's been argued by Carol Dweck that mindset is key to success and a changed mindset. And we'll talk more about that in a moment, but I just want to recognize that mindset has become a feature in schools. There's always a mindset display, a growth mindset display in classrooms, on corridors. It's quite easy to put up a display, I feel. It's not so easy to get kids to believe, to practice a growth mindset. So it is something that needs continual practice and continual work. But I think it's very important when we're talking about engagement, when we're talking about motivation, to have some understanding of Carol Dweck's work. And in simple terms, there's one main reason why I value her work and why it's important to understand it, if you're talking about behaviour, is that she was very clear at challenging the talent myth. The idea, and a lot of kids have this belief, it still persists out there, that you are born smart, you are born clever, or you are born stupid, or you are born clever, and it's just, you know, how you are and what you do. And Carol Dweck challenges this and suggests that it has more to do with practice than ability. Now, this is really important for teachers because it means that we can honestly say that if young people, if kids in our class work at things, then they will get better and they will then be successful. Now, if we're going to motivate and engagement to that work, then some understanding of a fixed mindset as opposed to a growth mindset is really important. So what we want is young people on the right-hand side of this diagram. We want them to have a strong desire to learn. We want them to embrace challenges. We want them to persist if those challenges continue. We want them to know that effort leads to mastery. We want them to find inspiration in the success of others, and we want them to learn from criticism. Now, if only we had classrooms full of learners that had the growth mindset like that. If only we had that as a consistent and as a given, how much easier it would be. Now, we know that we have to work at developing that growth mindset because many young people find themselves on the left-hand side of this diagram, where they end up in a fixed mindset. Appearing to look smart is more important. They avoid challenges and give up easily, cannot see the point of effort, feel threatened by others' success, and they resent feedback. Now, all of us, and I include adults, I include grown-ups in this, can find ourselves on the fixed mindset side of this. It's the complexity of the human condition that we can quickly fall to the negative. We can lose sight of the growth and we can fall to the negative. So what Carol Dweck's work gives us is an answer when young people say, I don't want to do it, I can't see the point of it. They're smarter than me, so what's the point? They're keynotes, they're geeks, whatever. I'm not doing this. I disagree with what, all the challenges that come from a fixed mindset can be countered with something from the growth mindset about the importance of a strong desire to learn, the importance of embracing challenges. Now, that just gives a framework of where we're trying to get the young people. If we can move them over to this growth mindset, if we can move them over, then they are more likely to achieve and they are more likely to be successful. So what does this look like in the classroom? In simple terms, it translates into a very simple three-letter word: yet. I think if there's one gift that Carol Dweck has given to teachers, it's this simple word, yet, or the use of this simple word. I can't do it yet. I never do homework yet. Well, we'll see about that. I don't do science, but yet. I don't go to lessons yet. I'm not where yet. I'm not a grade C, B, A, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 student yet. It opens up a world of possibility. Just one simple word and students, as we well know, can deliver these lines in varying level of challenge. And it can be just a simple lack of confidence, or it can be something far more confrontational and direct, and a refusal to do it. But your ability to say yet, not you will do it right now. I insist that you will do that now or else, but just open up the possibility with yet. Open up something more hopeful, something that the student is in control of. You're saying yet, we will do it, we will get there. Well, maybe it won't be today, but we'll just do this for today. We'll just take a small step. Maybe it will be next lesson, maybe it will be lesson after that. But I, as a teacher, will be here for you, and I have the expertise and I have the support that can help you to do it. So yet is something very practical, very instant, very work many times for me, and sometimes quite challenging situations where the refusal is really quite confrontational. But yet, we'll come back to it. We'll take a small step now. It opens up lots of possibility and takes away that direct confrontation and challenge. Moving on then to talk about language. There's three things that I think to get engagement and motivation. Three things that you can use alongside behaviour. I talk about them as pillars because they really do exist as three strong concepts that support the best behaviour. But if you're hoping to engage and motivate, sometimes it's better not to talk directly about behaviour. If you talk about relationships, for example, I'm the teacher, you're the student, I can help you to learn. That is the relationship that we build our classrooms around. But if you talk about the relationship in those terms, then you may get to better behaviour quicker than just simply talking about behaviour. If you talk about responsibility instead of just behaviour, if you talk about the student's responsibility, what they are responsible for, they're responsible for being respectful, they're responsible for being safe, they're responsible for being ready to learn, they're responsible for how they talk, they're responsible, etc., etc. If you talk about in those terms, there's a much greater power than simply doing as you're told. There's nothing wrong with being very direct, as long as you've got a relationship that allows for that. There's nothing wrong with being direct. But talking about responsibility opens up a different sort of conversation. If you talk about potential, I think this is probably the most powerful of the three. They can be better than this. A young person, you can do the work. I believe you can. You can be better than this. You can get more done than this. I'm sure you can. I'm hopeful that you can. You can do anything that you put your mind to. You can achieve a better grade than you think. Okay? Potential, responsibility, and relationships open up three different types of conversations. Now, they're conversations that happen all the time in school, but in the heat of a classroom moment, as teachers, we go to the behaviour and we challenge the behaviour. If we just paused a moment and spoke instead about potential, about the relationship, about responsibility, we often get to a better behaviour outcome than just going straight to behaviour. And I'll just take a pause here for you to, if we were live, and certainly in the live training that I do, we can work through some of this in detail. But if we were together, we'd take time to do a dreaded bit of role play. But I don't shy away from doing that in behaviour sessions, because how do you practice these what may be new approaches to behaviour? How do you get better at them if you don't practice them? How do you build confidence around them unless you try them? So I'm just going to pause here and just think about a conversation you have had or you might have that uses the language of responsibility, the language of relationships, or the language of potential to get a different behaviour. And I'll just leave you with that as a little bit of self-directed work that you can just think through. Okay, picking up with one of those, one of the key challenges at the moment in a lot of lessons is about students not wanting to do work. Not wanting to do work. As soon as you set the task, I see this so often in classrooms, in schools that I'm in. The teachers done a wonderful starter, meted and greeted, wonderful starter, a do now activity. It comes onto the main activity. The teacher explains the main activity, goes through it, gives an example, models an answer, maybe even does a woggle or a wobble, a good one, and then over to you, right? Over to you now to complete the task, over to the class to do something. And straight away, 3 kids start talking. Straight away, a hand goes up. I can't do this. Maybe one question in, one sentence in, and somebody's. So this lack of independence is prevalent in a lot of classrooms. So I've picked one of these, responsibility. Let's have a look at responsibility. We want students that move past learned helplessness, but we've got to help them to do it. Take this. I found this working with primary colleagues. A lot of young people will have seen this. I see in some secondary classrooms. But your first response to the pushback about not doing it is this. I want you to use your brain, use the book or resources that's on the desk. I'll even let you talk to your neighbour if they will help, but you're talking about the work. And then you come to me as the boss. So 3 before me. I've seen other versions of this, but the principle's broadly the same. That the young person has got to do a couple of things before they come to you as the teacher. Brain, book, buddy, and boss. I say to young people, they've got a brain the size of England. Have a go. Have a go at doing it. That's the point of learning. Yeah, okay, you might make a mistake, but then I can help you. But you've got to have a go at doing it. You've got a brain the size of England. Okay, don't let them off easy by accepting that they can't do it or it's difficult. Put it on them first. They've got resources on their desk. They've got a slide on the PowerPoint at the front of the class. They've got resources. Use the book. Use their mate before they come to you. Now, the reason that I say this, there's something that goes alongside this, is that when you've set up the activity, the last thing that you say to the whole class is, does everybody understand? Is there anybody that doesn't understand? Because I will come to you first. You're not being hard or uncompromising about it, but you will go to them first because they need the help. They genuinely need the help. They haven't just started the activity and decided they don't want to do it anymore and have put their hand up and said, I can't do it. You ask the whole class, is there anybody that doesn't understand it? Really, in the back of your teacher mind, you know which young person you're going to go to first. It's part of your planning. You know who might need a little bit of support, a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of confidence in doing it. And you want to be able to go to those people, not just the person who's buckled at the first sign of doing some work. So there's a combination there of engagement and motivation. There's effective challenge, but there's also the support if you need it. But certainly, I recommend that you print this off, you put it up, you put it in your planner if you go from classroom to classroom, but get the young people in your class to get used to the idea that you're not going to accept helplessness. Okay, you will offer and support genuinely and in detail in a sophisticated way when it's required. But if it's just a case of I don't really fancy this today, then you're going to ask them to look inside and really get to grips with it themselves and get some work done. There's I'll come back to this throughout the behaviour series. There are simple ways of challenging behaviour. An intervention script. This is mine. This is I don't always use it word for word, but I recommend that you've got one of your own. Something along the lines of identifying the issue. I notice you're not working. You know, I introduce quite a lot of ambiguity, so it's not a direct confrontation, so it's not fighting talk. Okay, I notice you're not working. You don't seem to be. I'm not sure if the work's got your full attention. Are you concentrating? You know, there's lots of ways of identifying what the issue is. Okay, I just noticed. Okay, and there'll be some pushback. Yeah, I'm only doing this. I didn't do that. It's them. They did this. That's fine. Yeah, I hear you. But, you know, can we be ready, respectful, and safe? Those are the three, the bedrock of any well-behaved classroom. You know, I need you to be. This is not yet ready, respectful, and safe, and offer some encouragement and motivation. You've seen them. You know that they can be different. I'm sure that you can be better than this. In fact, if you know the kids well, you can refer to a situation in that lesson where they were different and they did complete the work and they finished it. Because as we'll come on to, these are the kind of things that you're collecting as teachers. And then that's it. You know, that's what I want to see. Thank you. Thank you rather than please. Always thank you. It's a big Bill Rogers thing. Okay. Thank you indicates an expectation that it will be followed. Please is a request. Thank you is a stronger expectation that it will be followed. Now, walk away. Have the strength as a teacher to walk away with your teacher peripheral vision going on. Okay, you will go back to it, but you're giving take-up time for the young person to do that. So a very brief script. I mean, you've got these slides. That's something that you can adapt into a language or a classroom expectation. If you want to ready, respectful, safe, if you use a different mantra, different a summary of your expectations, put it into language that you can, so that you can quickly use these, even in the heat of a busy classroom, when there's a lack of engagement or a lack of motivation. You've got a quick way of getting to something more positive. Okay, moving on. We've got about 20 minutes left, 25 minutes, and I'd like to talk about rewards, but I'm going to talk about encouragement and sanctions, and I'm going to talk about consequences. So the classic approaches that we've got, the behaviourist approaches that we can use to get better behaviour from young people. And I have changed. I'm not being pedantic about the language. I think that if we change rewards to encouragement, we can see what it is that we're actually trying to do. Rewards suggest that there's a finished product, that there's something that's been achieved, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we want them to be doing it next lesson as well, and we want them to be doing it in November, and we want them to be doing it in year 8 and 9, and we want them to be doing it in year 10, 11, 12, and 13. We want them to be doing it at the end of their school life as much as we want them doing it in year 7. So encouragement allows us to see it as a process that is going on when it comes to behaviour. It's a practice and a process. So encouragement, catch them being good. It's hard, isn't it? I mean, our negative bias as teachers takes us to things that go wrong. We see even the smallest thing that goes wrong. We see the smallest mistakes that kids make, and we're not so good at catching them being good. We're not so good at seeing the best part. We're not so good at seeing all those things that go well. So you've got to shift that bias. I mean, if you've managed to shift that, then you know what a good thing you're onto. The majority of the class work well. The majority of the class are on progress. The majority of the class are doing this. It is hard, especially when we've got challenging students in our class, students that find learning difficult, students that can be difficult in themselves. But remember, it's their behaviour that we don't like. And we want to, and even the most difficult young people will behave well at some points. And it's catching them doing that, even when they are difficult. There's always something. I'll happily be challenged on this. I've worked with some very, very difficult young people. And there's always something that you can find that they do well. And it might only be a little things, but those are the little things that you can hook a lot of behaviour change onto. So do be very vigilant. You've got a teacher radar. Be very vigilant about things that go well, even if they are only little things, and even if they are things that students who aren't always the best do. But be vigilant and spot that when things go well. You can put it on a board. You can send home an encouragement board, a praise board, whatever you want to call it. You can have people up temporarily on your whiteboard, or put them temporarily on an encouragement board, or you can make it more permanent. Have weekly stars of the week, stars of the term. Students that have done things well. A praise postcard is a similar function. I'm a really big advocate of calling home, of making phone calls home. It's a practice which I see a lot in a lot of schools. If you're not doing that, I do encourage you to make a phone call home. Start off just at the end of the week, just on a Friday, make one call. A kid that's got it right this week, make one call. You can make 2 or 3 if you want to. It takes literally 2 or 3 minutes. Phone home, praise something that's been achieved in a lesson, something that's been done well, something that's been achieved against the odds. There are tens of young people that you teach across the week who would warrant that call home. And just start by making those calls. And then when you do spot a difficult student being good, make that call as well. They don't get many of them, and it will completely change your relationship with that kid and mom, dad, nan, carer at home, because they don't get those calls often. But you are the teacher that notices and spots these things, and it's something of real power that can be built on. So get into the habit of phone calls homes. I know if you're a younger member and you've got to go and find a phone, and then you've got to get into Sims, honestly, the payback you get for what really is only between a 2 and a 5 minute operation, the payback you get is significant. It makes it worthwhile. And I'll be completely honest with you, it does your well-being a wealth of good. On a Friday night, if you're going home on the back of a call home where a parent has thanked you profusely, has probably praised you because you've made that call, that gives you a very warm feeling to go home with. And the bag of marking that you're taking home with you at the weekend will feel just that little bit lighter if you make that call. So calls homes are a good way of building up that encouragement and that motivation. Showcase their work. Never be afraid of telling a kid that their work's going to be shown to the head of department. If you're the head of department, have a little batch to take to the head of work that's been done well. It's good promotion of the work you're doing and your department's doing. And head teachers, I absolutely guarantee you that head teachers love it. If they get a little selection of work from art, a little selection of work from maths, this is what we've been doing in year 8, really special performance here. Give real value to the work by showing it to the head or to your line manager. If you're not ready for the head, and maybe you're saving it up, something really special for the head, but you've got a line manager of your department, they're an assistant head teacher or maybe a deputy, and it takes 5 minutes, just drop a selection of books. They will love it because it's something that they can see. At the end of the day, senior leaders are teachers at heart, and they want to know that there are young people who are doing well in departments that they're managing. So showcase their work. You've obviously got the opportunity at parents' evenings to showcase work to parents as well. So whenever you get the opportunity, young people thrive on this. Who's seeing their work? It's not just you, it's other people. Put their work on display. Show that you value their work. Show what you value. Put up work that has been improved. Show the editing process, because that's something that young people find difficult. But make a display out of an edited piece of work, what was improved and how it was improved, and build up an acceptance of that as something important. I've mentioned a lot about connection. Find out who they really are. Find out who they really are. Find out what they value. Find out what's important to them, and offer them encouragement around that. There's no powerful, if you've got a young person that wants to be something and you're working towards that with the work that you're doing, that's a really powerful connection. That's real meaning and purpose. Not everybody wants to be a doctor. Not everybody wants to be a professional, but everybody wants to learn, and everybody wants to improve, and everybody wants to get better. So connect what you're doing with what it is that they want to do in their life. I mean, your subject might easily translate into something that you know that they want to be X, and your subject is moving them towards it. But any subject at any time can be connected to what a kid really wants to be. Moving on. Getting a small promise from a young person that they will do X. Just if they're finding things hard, if they're finding your subject difficult, just get a small promise from them that they will try, that they will complete one question more, that they will write in a full sentence, that they will complete, that they will show working, that they will go on to the extension task, whatever it is. If you get a small promise from them, you can use this, especially if it's not easily for them to give it, but a small promise that you can work with, and you can then show belief in them working towards that promise, that they will try, that it's a practice, that their behaviour is a practice, and staying in the lesson for some kids, staying in the lesson, completing the work, having a go. That's all work that you can that can be encouraged because it's a practice. Now, all of this can be captured in a very simple concept. It's a very simple concept, but it just takes a couple of minutes to explain. But I encourage you to take this concept and work with it in a way that you find acceptable, that you find works for you. The cookie jar concept is the idea that basically, rather than a jar full of cookies or biscuits, that we actually collect in a jar things that young people have done well. In particular, things they've done well against the odds. Okay, so that's in simple terms, that's a concept. It's the jar is simply a means of collecting things that the young person has done well, in particular things they've done well against the odds. Now, that could be a physical jar. I've used a physical jar where you put a piece of paper into it, you write something on a piece of paper, completed all their work, stayed in the lesson, attempted 3 questions, answered a question, answered 2 questions, didn't call out, whole lesson without, and it goes in the cookie jar. I've done that with the physical jar. It could just simply be a piece of paper, and you write it down lesson by lesson. It doesn't even have to be anything physical. It's just the idea, the concept that you are looking, as I said previously on previous slides, you're looking for things that the young person does well. Now, all of this allows you to show that you believe in that young person. You maybe believe in that young person more than they do themselves, but you believe that they can be better. You are there for them because you're a teacher that's looking out for things like this. You're looking out for them being good. You are a teacher example of something, of someone that is looking for the best in them. You're willing to move away from labels. They may have a label as a difficult young person. They may have a label of underperforming. They have maybe a low achieving. But you're prepared to look past that label and what it is that they're doing well, and their potential and their possibilities. Very simply, you're looking for them to be better. You're collecting evidence of them being better, and you're prepared to bend it. You're prepared to flex and find and look and adapt your lessons in order that they can complete the work. Those 5 B's give you the functioning. This is what a simple cookie jar can do. It can show all of that. Now, if we want to motivate and engage, if we want to make connections to young people, there's a very simple method of building those complex connections. Simple cookie jar. If you there's much more that I do on this. But as a concept, I think it's simple enough for you to adapt, for you to develop into something that suits your way of teaching and suits your classroom. But in simple terms, the cookie jar allows you to collect things that the young people do well. At the end of it, you get to be you. You get to be we all want to be the teacher that that connects with all young people, even the hard to connect with. You get to be that teacher, and that's a really powerful motivator. You get to be that teacher that connects with young people who find things difficult. Just pause for a moment there, let you take that in, and then we've got the last 10, 12 minutes of the session. So I'll give you a moment to work with what we've done so far. Okay, last bit of the session, consequences. Okay, very simple. If it comes down to it, you've got to discipline. You have to discipline. You have to apply the behaviour policy, and you have to do it, but do it with dignity. Do it with the support bit of the support and challenge matrix in mind. The hope is that they can change out of this consequence. The hope is that they will change. You don't want to be repeating this consequence next week, next month, in year 9 or 10. The reason that you are doing this, disciplining them, the reason that you are applying, etc., etc. These are the conversations that hopefully will ensure that it's a one-off, that you don't need to repeat it. Remember, it's the behaviour that you don't want. It's the consequence of their behaviour. If they change their behaviour, they don't get the consequences. The consequences that they find so unpleasant, they don't get them if they change their behaviour. This is obviously accompanied with a whole heap of teacher disappointment. Okay, disappointment is a much more powerful emotion than anger. And if you reach consequences, disappointment, let them know that this is damaging the relationship, the teacher-pupil relationship, because you don't really like doing this. You'll do it, you don't really like doing it. Okay, disappointment. I always, encourage last chances. Last chances. Do I really have to do this? Okay, do I really have to hit the button? Do I really have to press this for in-class support? Do I really have to press this to issue a behaviour point? Do I really have to do this? No, I don't, because you know how to behave. Okay, ready, respectful, and safe. Do I need to? No, I don't need to do it. And the young, the power of a last chance. Okay, be generous with a last chance. Okay. Some young people will blow the last chance. Some young people, it's not enough, and you do have to get to the consequence. But if you give them the last chance, it gives them an opportunity to pull back. Okay, they have to do the sanction, and this is where you have to be extra vigilant. You have to make sure that they do it. That consequence was set by you. If they are done centrally, you make sure that they do it. A lot of schools ask for a restorative conversation around those sanctions, even if they are given centrally. So make sure that you know that they've done that. And if they don't do it, you have to follow it up. Okay? You have to follow it up, and you have to do it. And draw in parents if necessary. Draw in heads of year if necessary, so that they understand that if their behaviour crosses a line, there's a consequence to that, and you will make sure that that is done. Okay, in order to help young people, in order to help kids not to repeat the mistake that they've made, I use that language. I use the language of mistakes. Okay, it allows for conversations, behaviour, and conversations about behaviour and what it is about that behaviour we don't like. Carries a lot of judgment, encourages a lot of pushback, encourages a lot of challenge from the young person. Okay, but if you talk about mistakes, and mistakes that you don't want repeated, because only a fool repeats their mistakes. If you use this sort of language, you're far more likely to open up a conversation where a young person will start to practice. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, nothing's a guarantee in behavior, but you can start to have a conversation that will start to change the behavior. If you talk about mistake, so getting them, I mean, you can work down this list, but it might take you 10 minutes to get them to acknowledge the mistake and to stop saying it was their fault. Stop asking why aren't you talking to them? They were making, getting rid of all that. We're talking about responsibility here. They acknowledge the mistake and they take responsibility for it. If you want a young person to do that, ask them to talk only using I, not they or we. Ask the young person to only use I. They have to take responsibility then. But it might take 15 minutes to just to get to that point. But at least if you get to that point, you've got an opportunity of them apologizing and forgiving themselves for what it is they've done. Really important. Old-fashioned, I know, but really important. And then they make amends, take the consequences. That's what we were just talking about. But the key, the power in this conversation is, what will it take not to make the mistake again? And again, it's talking from I need to, I have got to stop, I need to do this, I need to do more of that, because that's what you hold them to moving forward. So it's not about the same conversation, the same repeated conversation. It's about the commitments that they make around not making the mistake again. That's a very simple conversation. Again, there's lots of work around restorative conversations, complex scripts that can be used. But if you take it as a broad, what I'm trying to offer is simple conversation, simple language that can move young people into better behavior. And talking about mistakes allows mistakes to be taken responsibility for, to be apologized for, to take the consequences for, but most importantly, not making the mistake again. Again, we're coming to the end of the session, so maybe not quite a mindful minute, but I'll give you time to just have a little think about that. And the last little bit of this is because we're moving into the challenging behaviour territory now, aren't we? We've kind of bridged between motivation and engagement and the kind of pushback that we are experiencing in some classrooms from some young people. So we I'll kind of finish on really just supporting us as teachers to stay emotionally agile. I mentioned a moment ago about anger, and it is hard in school. We are human beings, we have emotions, and we, using the language of the moment, we can be triggered. We have young people can certainly push our buttons, and the importance is staying emotionally agile. Now, at the start of session one, I spoke all about those well-being things that allow us to, all those practices, all those mindfulness practices maybe, but all those things that you do that allow you to keep emotionally agile. Now, if your answer to this question is I don't, then please ask for some help and speak to other teachers. There's a lot of support that can be had just in a conversation about a difficult kid, or a conversation about a difficult class with colleagues, because teachers go through this. And in a lot of the work I do supporting in classrooms, really it's a reminder that actually we all have bad days. We all have kids that we can't connect with. We all find it difficult as teachers, and you can find it difficult after 1 year or after 24 years or longer. So my urging to you is, if this just sounds like something that you're nowhere near, then please reach out to colleagues, and ask for help. Teachers are wonderful at doing this, at supporting each other, and sometimes it is just a letting go, a saying as it is, and just hearing that somebody else has that problem can make all the difference. However, other things, I'm not saying that you're become emotionless, but it's about staying balanced, staying in control, staying in a response rather than a reaction. Okay, you've got to give yourself time to do this. And sometimes that means saying, I'm not dealing with this now. I'm not having this conversation now. I'll come back to this. Or even passing it on to a colleague. Can I have some help with this? I visit schools as a no one. I may have a fancy title, but I visit schools. The students don't know who I am, and I'm walking around school, and I have to, sometimes I intervene in the situation, but I have to ask a colleague because the young person doesn't know who I am and doesn't really want to listen to what I'm saying, but I have to show that they are answerable to me ultimately, but I need somebody's help to do that. So help can help you stay regulated and stay in a response rather than a reaction. 100% don't get dragged into the kid's emotions. If the kid is clearly upset, is clearly angry, then you've got to leave that. You've got to support it, but there's no good escalating that situation. Most conversations can be left for another time. Most conversations can be come back to. And if it's clearly causing a heightened emotional response, it's vital that you stay in a response and keep out of the kid's emotions. Certainly, shouting louder than the young person or getting angrier than the young person is not going to get the outcome that you want. At the end of the day, there's only one thing that you can control as a teacher, and that's you and your response. Do keep that in mind. No matter how challenging the situation, the only thing that you can control is you. And people would expect a professional response. And there's if a young person has challenged you directly, if a young person has used unacceptable language, then your response, the required response is a calm, professional, and adult response. And it may be that you need to pass it on. It may be that you need to pick up with it later. But do keep that in mind. Control the controllables. You can't control really much else apart from you and your response. So staying calm, remembering that you want the best for the young person. Remember that you see the best in the young person. Let them know, remind them of that. Remind them that you're just trying to find a solution. Remind them of the language of responsibility, the language of relationships, the language of potential, the language of trying to solve things. All of that is the language to maintain, to employ. But as I've said, always be willing to involve another teacher and maybe come back to it later. If you want to find out more about this, I'll leave the quiz this time. Wonderful book. I've got loads from this. Emotional Agility by Susan David. She's a very generous with the resources. You can find a lot of extracts, a lot of simple practical advice, a lot of posts from Susan David online on social media. But it's a wonderful book. There's so much in there. And she's writing really to professionals. She's writing to parents as well, but she's writing to people in a very honest way about being a human, about our human emotions and how we can stay emotionally agile in order to be who we want to be and to get what we want out of these situations. Now, the next, yeah, right on time. The next, there's 4 more sessions, and after the first 2 sessions where I've kind of set things up, setting your stall out, about starting the lesson, about all the things that you can do to motivate and encourage towards the best behaviour, then the next 4 sessions are about challenging behaviour. So I'll just leave you with something to think about. Don't take it personally. It is incredibly personal, incredibly personal. But if we take it personally, then it becomes something that wears us down and wears us out. So we really do not have to take it personally. And we can do that by asking two very important questions. What's really going on, and what can I really do about it? So what's really going on? What does the behaviour communicate? And what, as a classroom teacher, can I really do about it? And those are two really important questions that will help you not to take it personally. Now, we'll explore far more than this in those coming sessions, but just a reminder, when we talk about challenging behaviour, that underneath that challenging behaviour is just a kid. You know, it's just a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old. They find things hard, they find things difficult, and it's when it does go wrong, when they do make mistakes, it's the behaviour we don't like, not the child that's underneath that. And just something to take away. It's a long quote, but it's a very good quote, and it's about setting the weather. It's about setting the weather, about being the decisive element. It's hard being a teacher. I don't underestimate how difficult it is, but we get to set the weather. We get to be the decisive element in our classrooms. We get the chance to make a difference. So please do take some of the strategies to encourage and motivate and to set up lessons, because the more that we do of that, the more likely we are to get the best behaviour for learning and make our classrooms places where young people can thrive. Thank you for listening.